Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, or Devontae Smith? Which of these star playmakers is going to be the first wide receiver taken in the 2021 NFL Draft? That's what we're talking about with SI fantasy and gambling analysts Michael Fabiano and Frank Taddeo. And Frank, I'm going to start with you. Let's break down the odds of what the sports books are saying on which of these star receivers will be the first one off the board.
Yeah, Bill. Right now, the odds makers actually have 4.5 wide receivers to actually be drafted in the first round. So if you're projecting that 5 guys are going to be going off the board on that opening night on April 29th, then you're going to want to be betting the over. But if you do, you're going to have to lay the wood, because right now going over 4.5 wide receivers, hearing their name called on that opening round, is now up to minus 210. Now, Bill, we know that last year 6 wide receivers went off the board in the opening round. But for this year, right now, there's one clear prohibitive favorite to hearing his name first, and that would be LSU star wide receiver Jamar Chase. He is absolutely phenomenal, Bill, but it's been a long time since we've seen him in between the white lines, because we know that he decided to opt out of the season last year due to COVID-19 concerns. And right now, the last time we saw him was catching passes from Heisman Trophy winner Joe Burrow and lining up on the other side of, a lot of the other star wide receivers and talent that LSU had at that team, obviously led by Mr. Jefferson, who is now playing with the Minnesota Vikings. But right now, Bill, if you want to bet that Chase is going to come off the board first, you're going to have to lay 450. So that means the odds are negative 450. Bill, that means that we know you don't like to be a wrong way better. That means that you would have to lay 450 just to see a potential return of $100. And right now, that is a difficult pill for a lot of sports bettors to swallow, as well as, Bill, to be honest, that's not really smart bankroll management, as we know that anything that can happen in the NFL draft, we've seen shocks and players fall and other players rise. So I would never look to recommend laying 450 on a player, despite the fact that he has the highest, or I would say the lowest overall projected total of 6.5 in terms of his draft projection total number. Right behind him is 2-star stud dynamic duo from the Alabama Crimson Tide, and that would be the Heisman Trophy winner Devonta Smith at odds of plus 500, as well as his teammate Jalen Waddle slotting right in behind him at odds of plus 550. Now, we know that Jalen Waddle had a serious ankle injury, and he was looking absolutely phenomenal before having that ankle injury, and he looked like he was going to be the one on his way to potentially winning a Heisman Trophy winner, because the numbers that he put up in just 4 games was absolutely phenomenal. The comparison right now to him is Tyreek Hill, and I can understand why. But in terms of Devonta Smith, he's absolutely electric and potentially the best route runner of any of these wide receivers in this year's class. And a lot of the strong comparisons are to either ex-NFL star Santana Moss as well as Deshaun Jackson. And we know that both of those players have had prolific NFL contributions at the NFL level. And Devonta Smith right now has his overall draft projection number set at 11.5. Jamar Chase is easily going to be the first wide receiver off the board, but that is not a market that you're going to be wanting to look at. A market that you will want to potentially be looking at is one that'll be coming out in maybe a week or so, and that was one that'll probably a matchup between the 2 Alabama stars. And you're going to want to look, according to my sources, to favoring Jalen Waddle to be drafted ahead of the Heisman Trophy winner Devonta Smith in a head-to-head matchup prop at plus odds, because they are feeling, and there's strong indications, that Waddle will hear his name called first between the 2 Alabama stars. So that will be the play later as soon as those markets arrive across the sportsbook landscape, Bill.
So there's a lot of groundswell right now of Joe Burrow getting Jamar Chase rejoining his college quarterback in Joe Burrow. The Bengals have the 5th overall selection in the first round. Fabs, let me go over to you, because I want to know your fantasy rankings of these guys. Do your projections or do your rankings match up with Jamar Chase being the number receiver in this year's class?
Yeah, no question. He is going to go as the number 1 wide receiver. We just don't know where, right? Will it be Cincinnati with Joe Burrow? Will it be Atlanta potentially? Will it be the Miami Dolphins adding another weapon there for Tua Tagovailoa down there in South Beach? Time will tell. Ultimately, he's going to be the guy. His last full season, as Frankie mentioned, he opted out last year due to COVID-19. I mean, he had 84 catches. He had 20 touchdowns. He was unbelievable, broke more tackles than any other wide receiver. He is an absolute playmaker. And so he'll be the number 1 wide receiver drafted without question. And then it's going to be one of the 2 Alabama wide receivers who goes to. I have Devontae Smith ranks next, the Heisman Trophy winner. But once again, this is more about preference of the franchises. What teams need wide receivers at the top? The Detroit Lions are desperate for wide receiver help. They lost everybody, right? Kenny Galladay went to the Giants. Marvin Jones went to Jacksonville, so they need a number 1 wide receiver. It ain't Tyrell Williams, I can tell you that right now. So if Waddle goes to Detroit, for example, Frankie's saying the odds right now look like he'll be the number 2. He could actually be the most valuable rookie wide receiver from a fantasy football perspective. Why? Target share and opportunities. And Smith, potentially, if he goes as the 3rd wide receiver, maybe to the Philadelphia Eagles, right? They need wide receiver help as well. Ultimately, we all know, based on fantasy production, it all depends on where these guys end up. And so whether it's Waddle or Smith going second behind Chase, who is the clear-cut number 1, it's going to be all about opportunities, my friends. But these 3 players have a chance maybe to make a pretty big impact as rookies. And we have seen that this past season. Overall, first-round wide receivers have not done well over the last 8 to 10 years. But maybe that trend flips because this past season, we saw guys like Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb and others put up really good numbers in their first NFL season.
Frankie and Fabs, great analysis as always. We're looking forward to the NFL draft, and I know dynasty players, they're looking to draft some of these wide receivers as well. Plenty more fantasy football analysis. Check it all out from Sports Illustrated. Go to si.com/fantasy.